Hello and welcome to GMI, the Guitar and Music Institute podcast number 13, So You Want to Work in a Guitar Shop. With me today on the interview is Chris Cunningham, who is the manager of the Edinburgh Guitar Guitar store. Guitar Guitar has been running for 13 years. Chris has got a huge amount of experience in running a store, selling guitars and guitars in general. I'm really looking forward to this interview. If you're interested in perhaps working in a guitar store, you're going to want to listen to this interview. But Chris also touches on his favourite guitars, places that he's been by working in the industry, and the people he's met. If you're listening to this episode on iTunes, please subscribe, and it would be great if you could leave us a review if you enjoy our podcasts. Also, please come over to the GMI website, that's the guitarmusicinstitute.com, to find out more about this and all our other podcasts, as well as extra materials. Chris, it's great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
It's I must admit, I think this is the first time we've ever had someone within the music industry who actually sells guitars
selling dreams and making your dreams come true.
So is that really what you're doing?
Oh, definitely, man, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to see people coming in the store and spending time and selecting the right instrument for them, and me being part of that special journey to somebody getting, what can be like a real aspirational item in their life.
So do you have... we're going to talk about how someone gets into your business and the nuts and bolts of that business.
Okay.
But just on a personal level, do you have specific guitars you really love?
Yeah, I think every guitar player has got a guitar that they love, whether it's guitars that their icons have used or mates have had or something like that. I've definitely got my favourites.
And what would they be?
Ooh, my favourite guitar at the moment is my 1984 Yamaha SG 3000, which just is... it's a guitar I've wanted since I was 13 or 14 years old.
Is that the one with the gold, everything's gold on it?
Yeah, it's all gold hardware and just real nice sort of fancy abalone binding and just a really nice...
Does it have a sound block in it, that one?
No, it doesn't. That's the 2000 it's got.
Right, okay.
When I was 14, so I went to the normal school in the city, and I had a friend who went to a private school in the city, and his family had a little bit more money than mine, and I had a Jim Deacon Strat and a little Samick amplifier which cost 70 quid. And my mate had a Yamaha SG and a Marshall half stack, and I'd always wanted to have one, and I was lucky enough last year to get one.
Fantastic. So you are the manager of one of the most successful brands, I suppose, if you want to call it that, of guitar shops.
Guitar Guitar started in 2004 in Edinburgh, and we've sort of grown throughout the years to having 6 stores in the UK.
So I remember when the store opened, and when I heard it was going to be a guitar store, my immediate thoughts were, oh, here we go, another Mickey Mouse guitar store.
Yeah.
And then I went up to the place and was absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of another store that used to be in Edinburgh called Sound Control.
That's right.
So I take it there's a link between...
There is a brief link in the foggy ruins of time, but Sound Control used to be owned by 2 chaps from Dunfermline, and
the old capital of Scotland.
The old capital of Scotland, that's right, yeah. So the guys who own Sound Control went their separate ways in 2002, and Kip, who initially started Guitar Guitar, we opened the doors there in 2004 in Edinburgh as a very separate thing. There was a previous history with another company there. Guitar Guitar was set out to be a specialist guitar store. Sound Control obviously was sort of lots of other instruments and things like that. Guitar Guitar was very clearly just guitars and basses, developed for the specialist.
What do you think is the sort of winning formula of Guitar Guitar? Because it has grown, and it's just, people just love the place. What is it?
I think it's a combination of things. I mean, you can't put your finger on one thing. I mean, obviously we have been lucky to catch the sort of upwards curve of online sales, but it's sort of bricks and mortar level, if you like. It's sort of the stores rather than the online entity that's kind of grown arms and legs. At store level, I think it comes down to just being very selective about the staff, just making sure that the original sort of vibe of the store doesn't change. When we started off, there was one store and it was a sort of local, homegrown company, and we weren't part of a big chain. And companies, as they get older, people go, "Oh, it's part of a chain." You're like, "Oh, don't not go in there, it's part of a chain." And I don't really see Guitar Guitar as being like that. Guitar Guitar is very clearly 7 separate stores, and yes, we are part of that bigger group now, but each store has its own feel and its own vibe. And I think being selective about the staff coming in just allows you to keep the place feeling cosy, and it's just got a real nice feel to it,
So we're dodging around all over the place, but that's cool, because most of the interviews I do, Chris, go like this. So you were talking about staff and the pick of staff. This whole podcast is about people who may want to work in the retail sector of the music industry. Can you tell us what it isn't and what it is and what you're looking for?
It's not a way to make £1 million. It's not a way to make a fortune. Working in a guitar shop. I'm not doing it for the money. You do it for the love of the job.
Would I be right in thinking that a lot of people who maybe apply to work in a guitar store are maybe guitarists who think, well, I might make some connections?
Possibly, and I think that does happen as well. Selling the guitars on a day-to-day basis is only part of the job. There are a lot of connections that you make. I'm sitting here as a result of a connection that I've made, and you meet a lot of interesting people that sort of pull you in various directions outside working hours, and you get involved in some quite interesting things. And I do know guys I've worked with who have gone on to, one of the guys I worked with, for example, is now producing in Nashville. Other guys have gone on to sort of careers in audiovisual technology and things like that. You do get, as I say, you don't do it for the love of the money. You do it for the love of the job. And there is a sort of shelf life, certainly, with some people when they come into the musical instrument retail world, that they will use it as a stepping stone to go into something bigger and better.
And what is it really about, Chris? It's obviously about selling guitars, but what do you need to have to be a success in this industry?
I think you need to have a love of the instrument, not just as a player, but actually have a love of the tactile nature of an instrument. And every guitar they're all different. They smell different, they sound different, they feel different. You need to really get into the mindset. It's not just about being able to play 1 million notes a minute. It's really about loving the instrument and really enjoying working with people. You need to be engaged with people. You need to just sort of understand the way that makes some people tick.
And if someone's trying to get into this business, do they need to come with a lot of knowledge before they actually start? I mean, the makes and all the different technical aspects.
I remember sitting having an interview in 2004 with Guitar Guitar, and as much as I loved guitar, it wasn't something I knew an awful lot about. And I remember Kip, the chap who owns Guitar Guitar, asked me to name the top 3 guitar brands in the UK, and all I could think of was Yamaha, Fender and Gibson.
Were you right?
I think I was right, yeah, I think I was right, but I didn't have a vast knowledge. And I remember actually not long after I started with Guitar Guitar, I got an A4 notepad, and down the left-hand side I wrote down as many guitar brands as I could think of, and I think I got 3/4 of the way down the page. Then I did the same exercise 2 or 3 years ago, having worked there since 2004, and I was filling pages and pages worth of guitar brands, and there's just so much information that you just sort of pick up over the years.
I've got a question that I've often wondered, and I can't work this out, and it's kind of the question of the lost sock.
Uh-huh.
I've never, ever seen a guitar in a skip or in a field or by the side of the road, and yet they're selling them all the time. Where do they all go?
Who knows?
Have you ever wondered that?
Who knows? I'd love to develop a scanner that I could attach to the underside of a helicopter and fly over people's houses and just look down into their attics to see what they've got.
Do you think that's where they all end up?
Who knows, man? I really don't know. I mean, we obviously deal in a lot of pre-owned guitars, and there is a big market for pre-owned guitars. But the amount of guitars we sell, come Christmas time, the amount of guitars we sell that may be languishing in cupboards somewhere under beds or in attics, who knows? But you're right, there's a lot of guitars just seem to vanish into the ether.
Yeah, and it just keeps... So are you saying that the business is actually, in terms of manufacturers, not individual manufacturers, but businesses, larger, is growing?
Yeah, Yes, as in sales business or as in...
And just the amount of guitars out there and the range of guitars.
I think so,
there.
yeah. I mean, there's sort of offshoots come from bigger brands. So you've obviously got sort of brands like Fender will produce brands like Sir, because John Sir goes on to do his own thing, and you've got other guys will work for certain brands and they'll sort of branch off and do their own thing. And obviously the sort of influx of guitars coming from the Far East as well has been pretty vast. There's a huge amount of guitars coming from the Far East now that maybe didn't exist 10 years ago.
Okay, you said something that made me think of something. So, what were we just talking about?
Influx of guitar, increase in brands.
Okay. So, Chris, you've been with Guitar now for 13 years.
13 years coming the 1st of June, yeah.
What's the biggest differences that you've seen over that 13 years?
I mean, the obvious thing is the huge increase of web business. When we first started, we didn't have a website. Now it's a huge percentage of the business.
Is it a bigger percentage than the people walking
No,
through
definitely
the doors?
not. I mean, I talk about bricks and mortar. Having the shop is always going to draw more people. I'd like to think it will always draw more people on the web, because, as I said, guitars are such a tactile thing. Okay, amplifiers and effects pedals might be one's the same as the other, but when it comes to a guitar, people want to come and sit down and play it and hear it and get a real feel for it. So I think that will continually drive people through the front doors.
So someone starting off in a guitar store doesn't need to come armed, as you were saying earlier, with thousands of brands.
Yeah, sorry, I went a little bit off piste when I was talking about that, didn't I? No, I don't think that people need to come armed with a vast amount of knowledge, because that comes through the job, and I think it's important that people are able to engage with their customers and sort of understand what their needs are without having to know every nut and bolt on a Fender Strat.
Right. And I'll be honest, still flummoxes me. I mean, all this in phase, out of phase, all those buttons. Am I right in thinking that's maybe receding, all that electronic stuff on the guitars as software amps?
No.
Still there. Still there to flummox me.
I think it's still there to flummox you, unfortunately, Jed. I think that guitar players are very sentimental, and they don't necessarily want technology to get involved in their traditional guitars. They're very sort of protective about, the guitar has to be the same way it was in 1959 or the same way it was in 1962. It's very important that the guitar manufacturers don't forget about that. So
are there some manufacturers that are trying to, cut a new...
Oh, of course. I mean, there's always going to be people...
So we're getting a sort of divergence between almost like the vintage and the new.
I think there's always going to be manufacturers out there try and sort of reinvent the wheel slightly. I mean, obviously you look back to the 80s and you had, the Casio digital guitars, and you had, our own Scottish Bond Electroglide, and you had sort of mad guitars that were just trying to push the boundaries slightly. You're always going to get that, but ultimately it comes down to wanting a Strat that is like a 1962 Strat, or a Les Paul that's like a 1959 Les Paul. People don't want
substitutes.
They don't want people messing with it. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. You're listening to GMI, the Guitar and Music Institute. My name is Jed Brockey, and I'm in discussion with Chris Cunningham, the manager of one of Guitar Guitar stores in Edinburgh. And Guitar, Chris, can you just tell us about that? Because it's not just in Scotland, is it? It's quite a big business.
It's quite a big business, yeah. We started in Scotland in 2004 and then quite quickly branched to Glasgow. And then so over the following years we've gone to Newcastle, Birmingham, 2 stores in London.
But do you think Britain leaving the EU will have an impact on the way business is done and tariffs and all the rest of it? Or is it something that just isn't on the radar yet?
I think the bigger picture is being thought about, but it's so difficult to predict what's going to happen that it's not worth panicking about it just now. We'll see how the land lies after the split happens.
Cool. So, Chris, is Edinburgh one of the bigger stores in terms of turnover and all the rest of it?
No. I mean, Edinburgh is.
You have league tables and things like that.
No, I don't. I'm sure somebody's watching it somewhere, but it's not me. I mean, Edinburgh is. It's probably one of the smaller stores now, to be honest. I mean, the store in Epsom is monstrous.
Right.
It's sort of 4 or 5 times the size of us. And the store in Glasgow isn't just the original store now. We've bought the stores, we've taken on the stores either side of the original Guitar Guitar. So we now have Guitar Guitar electric and bass, we have Guitar Guitar acoustic, and we have Guitar Guitar digital. Now the Guitar Guitar digital handles digital drum kits, electric pianos, and PA, that sort of thing.
So you're going out with the guitar genre in a sense?
Yeah, it's kept very separate. I mean, there is obviously there's a huge market for digital technology, but it is kept very separate.
So just so if you let the listeners understand what a manager, what does your job consist of on a daily or a weekly basis as the manager of a guitar store?
I think it's like managing any business. It's repetition, consistency, knowing when to step back. I mean, it was difficult taking on a manager role, having worked with the company for several years, knowing when to step back because you're used to doing so many jobs yourself. Being able to step back and delegate jobs is very important.
So you have to learn to trust people.
You definitely have to learn to trust people. I mean, you have to learn that, when you're not there when you're on a day off or you've got your back turned, you've got to learn that people aren't there. People, you've got to trust the guys and to do the right thing.
So before the interview started, Chris, you were talking as a manager of one of the stores. You were talking about how, well, sometimes, let's be honest, there's good benefits. You've been out to guitar plants in the Far East. Yeah. Is that right? Could you maybe tell the listeners about that? Because it was fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. And I was lucky enough, not last year, the year before, to visit the Yamaha factories in China and Japan, which was a real eye-opener. And it really was. Just the manufacturing process was just mind-blowing.
Am I right in thinking they've got a plant in Indonesia as well?
They do have an Indonesian plant, yeah.
So how does all that work then?
Basically, the Yamaha thing, it's research and development in Japan, and they will make the machines to manufacture the guitars in China and Indonesia. So they'll manufacture the machines, take them out to China, and the guys from Japan will train the guys in China how to use their machines. So, theoretically, guitars coming out of Japan should be the ones same as the ones coming out of China, should be the ones coming out of Indonesia. Although, the higher end guitars are handmade in Japan. The Yamaha SGs I was talking about earlier on, they're still handmade in Japan by a very small team of guys who are only making, a few dozen guitars every month.
Wow. Now there was something you told me, because I've got one of those Yamaha APX 1200s. In fact, you sold me it.
I did, many years ago. Yeah.
And you were telling me something about a piece of equipment that you saw, which was frankly mind-blowing. Do you want to just describe that to the listeners?
Yeah, it wasn't just a piece of equipment, it's the pieces of equipment in the factory. Yamaha use a technology that they call acoustic resonance enhancement, ARE, and a lot of their acoustic guitars, which is mind-blowing. And I actually think they use it on their SGs and things as well, but mind-blowing. They're basically finding the resonant frequency of the guitar, and they're vibrating it at that resonant frequency for 15 or 20 minutes, and that's apparently aging the guitars by 20 years. It's a real mind-blowing.
So is that one guitar at a time, Chris, or is there more than one that they do it?
No, they'll do it with batches of guitars.
And do you think it works?
And their guitars sound great. It's an interesting story if nothing else, but yeah, the guitars sound great.
I've got to say, I've got absolutely no problems with Yamaha. I just love them. One of your favourite brands?
Definitely one of my favourite brands. Yeah.
So why would that be?
I think because you're getting a really, really good quality guitar that doesn't have the same status attached to it, if you like. You're sort of your bigger brands. And I'm not saying I love Fender and I love Gibson and I love all these guys, but I just think there's a real honesty about Yamaha's product. The research and development that's gone into manufacturing their guitars over the years, the care and attention that they put into their brand is really, really, it's admirable, and I love their end product.
Any other guitar factory visits?
Oh, who have I been to? I was in Germany a few years ago. I went to visit a factory that manufacture AER amplifiers.
Right.
Sort of high quality German acoustic amplifiers.
Do they not have a place in Glasgow?
They are distributed by a company called Westside from Glasgow.
I remember phoning up Germany once and they went, yes, Glasgow, England. Our distribution. Maybe it'd be different now. So what was that like?
That was good, yeah, very small. But I think they've expanded since I was there, but it was a very small, basically as a unit, an industrial estate just outside Dusseldorf, in a little town called Recklinghausen. They had like 11 people manufacturing this brand, and a guy was coming in part-time to respray the cabinets, and it was really, nice, very different to the Yamaha thing. The Yamaha thing's sort of multinational, and it's a multi-million pound company. AER were a much smaller.
I used to have an AER, and I don't mind saying it. The sound always kind of compressed for me.
Really?
I
think maybe they work better with different pickup systems and guitars.
Yeah, definitely. You've seen a lot of changes over the last 13 years. Do you want to describe some of those changes, and where do you think guitar sales are ultimately going? And maybe even guitars, Chris, because if anyone knows about guitars, it's you.
Yeah, I've seen certainly improvements in quality control over the years. I remember when I first started playing guitar. In fact, I probably came to you with the guitar I had when I first started playing. I had a Jim Deacon Strat. It was a nice little guitar, but that was 20 odd years ago, and the quality wasn't fantastic. But I think now in the UK especially, the overall quality control has really, really improved. That's changed, and as I said earlier on, the pattern of people buying not just guitars but amplifiers and effects has shifted. More and more people doing so online. People are very aware of the money that's in their pocket, and they want to spend it as wisely as possible.
So are people buying guitars directly off the internet more and more?
They are more and more, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Well, what do you think about that? Buying a guitar without even playing it?
I think, every guitar is different, and especially with acoustic guitars. It's great to be able to pick one up and play it, and they all sound different, and they all smell different and feel different, and that sort of stuff. So it's such a tactile thing that maybe buying it online, it's not the way I'd personally do it, but I can understand why people do. Maybe they don't have time to come into the shop, and as a retailer, we need to make sure that our prices are as keen as possible. There's a lot of competition out there now, so yes, we want people coming into the store, but if people are going to buy the guitars online, we want our prices to be as keen as possible. And I'm always open to people come and saying, I can get X guitar cheaper elsewhere, what can you do? And I'll help them out, and I'll match prices and things like that.
If you're a beginner guitarist, Chris, is there a brand or brands that you would recommend for people to seriously consider for their young ones?
I think so.
Or their old ones?
It's difficult, as a retailer, I think it wouldn't be right of me to be to have favourites, because guitars and music and sound, it's also such a subjective thing. So what's my favourite, and it might not be your favourite, and one thing's right for one person and maybe not for another. There's, as a beginner, there's certainly brands that I would recommend, and at price points, and you've obviously got Squier, who are a subsidiary of Fender. They manufacture excellent Strat Tele replicas at an affordable price. On the flip side of it, you've got Epiphone, who are made under license by Gibson. They'll offer a Les Paul special or something like that at a budget price, £150 thereabouts. And then you've got your Yamaha Pacificas. We're talking about Yamaha again. Yamaha Pacificas, actually Jed's got one sitting next to me here. Yamaha Pacificas, if you're taking a step up the ladder, the Yamaha Pacificas may be the one to look at. And you've got all your other brands there as well, who all offer a budget type guitar. Jackson have got a great guitar out just now. Ibanez have obviously got the Geo range, which are excellent value for money.
Are you saying you can't go wrong, basically, nowadays?
It's difficult. It's horses for courses, really. If you want a pointy metal type guitar, you're probably not going to buy a Squier Strat. You might buy yourself a Jackson. Mm-hmm. If you're wanting something that's more traditional, you might buy yourself a Squier Telecaster and not buy the Jackson. I would say the quality control overall is excellent in the UK at the moment. If you're wanting to spend £150-ish, there's not a lot of bad guitars. Certainly in Guitar Guitar. I don't know what everyone else is selling, but within Guitar Guitar, we've obviously been through the mill. We've found out what makes some guitars good, what makes some guitars bad. There's a lot of experience within the store. And I think in Edinburgh just now, we were talking about this the other day. In Edinburgh, if you add our staff up together, and there's 8 or 9 of us just now, there's 130 years worth of experience. So we know good guitars from bad. And there's no point in stocking bad guitars, because it's just going to come back to us again. So we make sure £150, you're going to get the best guitar £150 can buy you.
And what is the big difference between a £150 guitar and a £1,500 guitar? Or is it all just in the head of the individual?
Well, we're talking a lot about electric guitars here. I think in electric guitars, the obvious things are, there's obviously American manufacture to take into account, or overseas manufacturing, Far East manufacturing is a lot cheaper. But in general, the components the American type guitars are using, the attention to detail, the lacquer, just the way the guitars are put together and feel and sound, you can tell the difference in quality. I mean, even as a beginner, you can tell the difference in quality between the £150 guitar and the £1,500 guitar. In acoustic guitars, obviously if you're spending £150 on an acoustic guitar, you're looking at something that's probably going to have a laminated top. At best, you'll have a solid top.
So what's a laminated top, Chris?
Laminated top is the top of the guitar that's got a hole in it. It's plywood with a veneer across the top. So the problem with manufacturing a guitar, I say a problem, there's not a problem. The downside to manufacturing a guitar with a plywood top may be that the layers of ply, you'll find microscopic glue bubbles and just little imperfections between the layers of ply that affect the resonance of the guitar. Because 80% of the sound of the guitar is coming from the top resonating. If you've got a solid piece of wood, be it spruce or cedar, it's like having a better quality speaker in your hi-fi. It's just going to project the sound more. It's going to be a more balanced sound. Once you're starting to spend £200 and more, you're getting that sort of solid topped guitar. Once you're up to £500 and more, you're maybe getting a guitar that's got a solid back and sides as well. So you're going to get rosewood or mahogany or something like that. And then, once you start to spend more than that, you're into the realms of sort of, the American brands, your Taylors and your Martins, and you're getting better quality hardwoods. You're getting electrics in the guitar. It's coming with a hard case. You can spend as much as you want to spend on acoustic guitars, really. And, you'll get some really special acoustic guitars. You've got a couple of £1,000 to spend. You get some real special stuff. And I've got a Moon Dreadnought built handmade in Glasgow. Jimmy's only doing 70 guitars a year or something like that. It's a real special guitar, Indian rosewood back and side, Sitka spruce top, ebony board. The more you spend, the better the guitar gets, within reason.
That is really interesting, but you're mainly talking about acoustic there. Is there a different sort of upward pointing graph for electrics?
I think so. I mean, an electric guitar manufacturer, be careful how I say this, I don't want to offend any electric guitar manufacturers, but I think there's a more simplistic way of doing it. It's easier to get a cheap electric guitar that sounds like a great electric guitar, expensive electric guitar, than it is to buy a cheap acoustic guitar that sounds like an expensive acoustic guitar. I think a tip I'd give you when buying an electric guitar is to sit down with it and have a think about how does the action feel, how does the neck feel, how do the pickups sound. If you're buying into the sort of the custom made guitars, you got to sit down with it and really try it and try a few, and you'll find one that suits you. But I'd say there are some fantastic value for money electric guitars in the market without spending £2,000 or £3,000. £500 or £600 will get you some really, really good electric guitars.
You know what? I've never understood why guitar chains don't have the blindfold test, when you can put a blindfold on, and you can basically try 10 guitars, and you say the one you like the best. Then you find out how much it costs and what its name is.
Well, so maybe that's not a great idea sometimes.
Not from a retailer's point of view.
Maybe not, no.
You don't just sell guitars. You've got a wide range of amps and effects. As popular as ever. Specifically physical effects, because are you finding with all this deluge of apps and software that it's having an effect on?
An effect on effects?
On effects.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's always the next generation of the multi-effect pedal coming out.
How do they keep doing that, Chris? Because we all just use 4 patches.
Yes, there's only 6 or 7 pedals you really want. I mean, let's go through it. What pedals do you need? You need a wah-wah pedal.
Yeah. You need
a tuner.
Yeah.
Chorus.
Some volume.
Yeah. Chorus. Delay.
A delay.
Reverb if your amp's not already got it. I mean, there's all sorts of things like loopers and things. But at the end of the day, there's only 6 or 7 pedals you actually need.
Exactly. And let's face it, some of it is so, if you put quite a lot of chorus and a bit of delay on it, you sound like something out the 80s, right?
Well, that's true.
Which is brilliant, because I like that sound.
But that sound is in just now as well.
Is it?
Yeah, the 80s are back, man.
You see, folks, he can tell me how to get cooler now. But the other point is, I was listening, I don't know who the band were, but the guy was using a trem effect.
Tremolo, there's another one.
Yeah, and that's coming back, and it's just like it's
60s. Yeah,
I know, it's like women's fashion. They just keep reinventing that.
Regurgitate it.
Do you think they pay these new groups to actually push a pedal?
I was saying this to somebody the other day that I'm a big fan of wearing jeans and a checked shirt, and I find if I do that all the time, I'm in fashion every 10 years.
That's right. It's a clock's always right.
Yeah. I was going to say about the constant tone chasers. There's a lot of guys out there who are just constantly searching for that.
Is that because they're musically inadequate? No,
I don't think so. I think they're just constantly searching for the right tone. And a guy will come in with a big bag of single effect pedals and they say, "Listen, Chris, man, I really want to buy the new Line 6 Helix, and I want to trade all my effects pedals in. Line 6 Helix, a bad example, it's a phenomenal piece of kit.
Yes, I've actually, believe it or not, seen the...
Oh, they're so good, man. I mean, there's nothing it can't do, but it's, people will come in...
Can it play the guitar for you?
It can play the guitar. Maybe a cup of coffee or something like that, or massage your feet gently.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an awesome piece of kit. But guys will come in with a big bag of pedals and say, Chris, man, I really want to trade my pedals in for the latest multi-effects pedal.
And you'll tell them they're not worth anything.
No, I'll say, absolutely, man. I'll give you good money for them, but I'll see you in 6 months when you come back with your multi-effects pedal to buy all the individual pedals back. And then they go on a whole other journey, and then it ebbs and flows. Or 1 minute they want multi-effects, 1 minute they want individual pedals. And I've seen guys like that for years and years and years who are just they're searching for that right tone or something that's easy to use. They don't want to take a big effects, a pedal board along a gig. They want to go along with their new Boss unit, which has got all their presets, and they push number 1 and everything comes to life.
You know what, Chris? I don't use pedals much these days. I still have my Roland VG88, which is trustfully sitting there in the corner. Mm-hmm. I want shrink-wrapped sounds. I'm not... Life's too short, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm sure you come across a lot of guys who actually want to edit till the cows go home.
I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a chap in the store last week. We were doing an in-store clinic with Andy James, who's an awesome ESP endorsee. And his tone comes from a Kemper rack profiling amplifier. Sorry, put my teeth in. A Kemper profiler. I mean, the Kemper stuff is, again, amazing technology, but his attitude was like he'll come in and he'll plug in straight into a PA when he's doing his master classes, and he presses the button that gives him his preset, and that's the sound. There's no messing about, setting up pedals, tweaking things, and it's just you press the button and that's your sound. And technology is at a state now when you can use something like that, and to the untrained ear, it's pretty close.
Do you ever get the scenario? And this happened to me probably about 15 years ago, where people actually come in and say, I want to sell all my pedals because I just want a clean, clear sound.
Well, clean and clear. Does anybody do clean and clear these days? You're a jazzer, so you probably want clean and clear.
Yeah, but I also do acoustic work. I like the sound. And what I'm trying to say to you is, it's not just jazz that I do, and I really love the sound of an acoustic instrument or a clean, guitar sound.
Yeah.
I take it by your reticence. You don't get that.
No,
even if it did happen, you wouldn't want that.
Not at all. I'm not all about the heavy overdrive. To be honest, these days I play mostly acoustic guitar rather than electric. In fact, I can't remember the last time I plugged an electric guitar in anger other than in the shop. Mostly acoustic and folk, but obviously acoustic amplifiers, you want it to be nice and clear. Electric guitar amplifiers, yeah, and we do get guys coming in who are wanting that sort of big, loud, clear Fender Twin type, glassy, crystal clear tone. But we also get the guys in who want the face melt and distortion as well, which is quite good.
Do you think the amplifier trade, Chris, is a bit like the effects trade? I mean, how do they manage to keep selling stuff? I mean, it's basically amplifying the one thing that I do think is amazing is the growth and the actual development of battery operated amplifiers. Now that to me seems a truly worthwhile, a new, you can carry it anywhere.
Yeah.
How did all the other amps though? How do they manage to keep flogging the same stuff?
I don't think they do keep flogging the same stuff, and there is, your listeners on the other side of the pond will know, or the listeners worldwide will know about the NAMM show that happens in California in January. I mean, that's when the whole world of music, instrument retail, the trade go along to find out about what's happening, what's new for this year.
Isn't most of the things that are new is a retro feel amp from 1964?
Well, everyone wants something to sound like something from 1960 odd or whenever, but I mean, your sort of real movers and shakers and the sort of the home practice amps and multi-effects type amps, you've obviously got Line 6, and we're doing a lot of business with Blackstar these days, and Fender have got the new Mustang GTs out, and there's all these guys who they've got to be seen to be doing something new, and they're all, one year one will be good, one year next, and they're all leapfrogging each other in terms of the quality and the sound that they're producing. A few years ago it was all about Line 6. Recently it's all about Blackstar. The new Blackstar ID cores as a practice amp is just like, it's almost unbeatable. It's such a good sounding amplifier. The technology that they're using for their chips to produce the delays and the modulation and things like that, is just like so good. I mean, it just sounds so crystal clear. And then, you know, who knows, next year somebody will be out with something else that leapfrogs Blackstar. So they've got to keep trying to outdo each other.
Are you a solid state or tube man?
At the moment, I hate to say, I'm a solid state man.
All right.
Yeah.
And why is that? Just because of the what it offers
Because I've got a house that my neighbours would not enjoy me playing a big loud valve amplifier in.
Right, okay. And there's never that pesky thing. I remember a gig I was on many years ago where I was lent an amp, and I took it in, and as I put it down, one of the valves broke.
Oh, there you go.
If you're one of those listeners out there, no matter where you are in the world, and you've had that experience, I'd love to hear from you, because it can be nothing worse. You're ready for the gig, and it actually breaks, and there's nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do. That's it.
But you know what, Chris? I've never really been one who cared what the amp was.
Right.
Except there was once I had a Fender amp, and it must have been around 1992 to 94. And I had this, and I had to sell it at the time, and I always regretted it. It was just magical. It was like crystal.
Yeah, yeah.
The lows were low, and the highs, it was just beautiful.
I think an amp
Did it
can
still make like that? Fender make?
Definitely, man. That Fender makes some fantastic amplifiers. You know, one of the amplifiers I was really surprised about recently, I mean, I've always had an admiration for Marshall amplifiers, as everybody does, but one of the amplifiers I was really surprised about recently was the current generation of DSL 100 heads. You know, they've been around for a long, long time, but I'd sort of forgotten about how good these things actually were. Now, they're not hugely expensive, but we put on a show in the Caves last month.
Where's the Caves?
Caves is in Edinburgh, folks. We put on a show in the Caves, which is a lovely venue in Edinburgh, and we were lucky enough to have Paul Gilbert along.
Did he have his power drill?
He didn't have his power drill.
Okay,
he didn't have his earphone things on either. But anyway, Paul Gilbert came along to do a masterclass, and Paul had asked for a Marshall stack, so we gave him a Marshall DSL 100 with a 412 cab, and honestly, the sound was just like unbelievable for a setup that costs, you know, maybe £1,200 for the head and the cab, but for not an awful lot of money in the grand scheme of things, it was such a good sound. And it's always one of these amplifiers I'd sort of forgotten about. I'm, you know, very lucky working in Guitar Guitar. We do a lot of different brands, and we do a lot of sort of boutique stuff, and we've got Bogners, and we've got Friedman, and we've got pretty decent stuff. And the Marshall had almost sort of like slipped into the back of my mind, but you know, if you're looking for a good gigging amplifier that's not going to ruin your wallet too much, seriously, the Marshall DSL series is just mind-blowing.
Where do you think all this technology is? Do you have any insider track on the next big things that are happening in amplifiers and effects? Or is it more integration with the internet and the ability to store and save?
No, I mean, there's always going to be the companies out there who pioneer the digital technology, but I honestly certainly for the foreseeable future, don't see the valve amplifier going away. You know, the traditional Strat, Tele, SG, Les Paul style guitars just seem to constantly sell.
Okay, Chris, I've got some questions now for you.
Oh dear.
What is the dearest electric guitar you've ever sold? And what was it?
I personally didn't sell it, but it came through our hands and was eventually sold in our Glasgow store. It was a 1962 Fiesta Red Strat in really nice clean condition. I think we got 30 grand for.
Wow. And that was that a buyer in Scotland?
No, that was a buyer in Spain. I went to actually, yeah.
So so you just put it on the internet that you had
Went
this?
up on the line, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So they bought it unseen?
Bought it unseen.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I actually had a chap in the store on Saturday with a 1959 Les Paul burst.
I can hear the drilling on.
Yeah, right. Real. I mean, that's to be honest, that's the only one I've seen in real life. You know, other than in the books and the magazines. 1959 Les Paul, and to top it off, the guy then breaks the news. Not only does he have that one, he also has another one, a 58, a 60, and a 52.
Right, a bit of a thing going on there with him. What's the most expensive acoustic guitar you've ever sold?
What's the most expensive acoustic guitar I've ever sold? That's a good question. We had a lovely Loudon went recently, which was just under 9,000, We've had some really nice Martins come and go as well. We had a lovely Martin Dreadnought. I can't remember exactly what model was. That was about 10.5. We did have some guitars on the wall for a while made by a chap down south called David. In fact, actually, he's from Perth, but he was working down south, Perth, Scotland, that is, not Perth, Australia. He was working down south, David Anthony Reid, who was making some really, really special guitars, roughly 10 grand's worth, but they were really, really, works of art.
So Guitar Guitar do sell or stock bespoke guitar makers?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I encourage it. We've got, I mentioned Moon earlier on. Moon guitars are manufactured in Glasgow by a chap called Jimmy Moon. Very small family-run company. Very bespoke. We've got sort of Moon guitars. We've done Patrick Eggles guitars in the past. Alistair Atkin, we've had a lot of Atkin guitars come and go. George Loudon from Belfast. I mean, George Loudon guitars are just like phenomenally well made.
Yeah. So here's another question for you. I kind of guess what your best kind of customer would be. Someone who's going to splash the cash. Mm-hmm. What's the worst type of customer?
The ones that ask me to do podcasts.
Other than those,
I don't know. I mean, it's difficult.
Come on.
No, I mean, you do meet some interesting characters, and we have had some interesting characters have come and gone over the years.
Is there people that always nearly buy a guitar but don't quite?
Oh, there's always the guy who says, "Oh yeah, I really love that guitar. I'll be back next week," and he'll come and try it again next week, and he'll be back the following week and the following week. It eventually comes in with the cash, we're 6 weeks long, and he comes in to buy it, and it's sold. I keep
saying that a lot.
Oh, I see it all the time. I always say to them, if you snooze, you lose. That's the way it goes. But I mean, it's like it doesn't matter what you do in life. If you're dealing with lots and lots of people all of the time, you're always going to get some people who are slightly more difficult than others. I wouldn't say they're the worst kind of customers because it keeps my day interesting.
So Chris, just as we come to the end of the interview, can you just outline again the sort of qualities you would need if you want to pursue a career in music retail?
I think it's important that you realise you're not going to make a vast amount of money out of it. It's not about the money. It's about the enjoyment of the job, the people you work with, the customers that you deal with, and having a real love for music and musical instruments, and just really understanding the way that sort of musical instruments work. It really is. Guitars are a really, really special thing, and although I'm maybe not playing as much now outside working hours as I possibly should be, I really do have a sort of a deep love for the guitar as a thing.
And that, to be honest, Chris, really has come over strongly this evening. How much you do love guitars, because I just sometimes wondered if you're around them all the time. Does it just familiarity breed contempt?
No, I don't think so. I'll not lie. I've been doing this for so long and sold so many guitars that when a new Gibson Hummingbird comes through the door, I don't go rushing to the case to open it up. And a new Les Paul comes in, it's not like, oh my god, it's a Les Paul standard. And I would have been like that 20 years ago. But there's still, every day throws surprises. I was telling you about the guy with the 1959 Les Pauls, and I had another guy the other day that had an old 60s Les Paul Custom Black Beauty, and things like that. It's like, wow, these things are just like phenomenal. They really are. The Les Paul standards and things like that, we have a lot of them. So maybe that sort of wears off slightly. And I remember when I was about 15 or 16, I saw a black and white photograph of Keith Richards playing a hummingbird. He had a cigarette hanging out his mouth, and he looked really cool. He's a young Keith Richards, and I thought, man, I've always wanted to play a hummingbird. The first Hummingbird came into the shop in 2004, and I opened up the case and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Now the Hummingbirds come and go, and they've kind of lost their shine a little bit, but every day throws surprises.
I remember, just before I ask you the final question, I remember when I was 15 or 16 years old, I used to come down from school and I would walk past a music shop in an area of Edinburgh called Tollcross. And that music shop is no longer there.
It's like Grant's Music, wasn't it?
It was Grant's Music, well done. And I remember they had, I think it was a 25th anniversary Strat in the window, mm-hmm. So that we can pinpoint exactly the year. I don't know when it was. It'd be around 1980, 1981, I don't know. Maybe you could write in the folks if you know the year. But I just remember standing there, looking at that Strat, totally bewitched. I don't own a Strat now. I did for many years, but if it's the one guitar that for me, I just love the sound and I love the look. But interestingly, I was in the Edinburgh University's Museum of Ancient Instruments.
Oh, yeah.
And there's two sections. There's one up at a place called Bristol Square, and there's one down at a place called the Cowgate. You would walk past this building, folks. If you're ever in Edinburgh, check it out. And if you look in there, you'll see some ancient, hundreds of years old Scottish lutes and things like that. And I could not believe it. They look like a Fender Strat. It's almost like, Fender, those are our shapes. No, they're not, actually. They've been around for a lot longer. But I just love that. There's just something about that shape. So, anyway, rather than me blathering on, Chris, because this is about you, final question for the listeners. How does someone apply to get into the business? Do they have to write in? What
the Guitar, we advertise our positions on our website, which is www.guitarguitar.co.uk. There is a job section off the website if anyone was keen for working for the company. Certainly look online there, or drop us an email, edinburgh@guitarguitar.co.uk. Drop us an email. There aren't any positions in Edinburgh at the moment, but company-wide, obviously we've got a lot of stores in the UK now, and who knows what could come up. And it's not just selling guitars. We've obviously got a marketing department now. We've got guys doing web development, web content. So there's a lot of people work for the company, and there's a lot of positions may become available.
Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much for talking to GMI.
Not a problem.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the GMI podcast series. I hope you enjoyed it. That's the end of episode 13. We've got more podcasts coming up very soon. Please subscribe if you're on iTunes or Stitcher or any of the other download sites that we're on. Of course, you can also find out more materials from the Guitar Music Institute website. That's GMI website at guitarmusicinstitute.com. Please check out our Patreon link, which is on the Guitar Music Institute website. GMI has a Patreon page with further offers and all sorts of goodies to give away, and in return we'd asked for your support. So please consider checking out our Patreon page. Look forward to having your company on the next podcast.